need to prepare now for the next session of auctions coming up. Real Estate Alliance last month had, or a couple of weeks ago, had a far more successful auction than we might have predicted. Actually, one of their favourite lots, which was guiding at 40,000, which we thought would have been a bargain because we knew it could be turned around for about 100,000. It actually went for 166 on the day. So it's telling us a couple of things. First of all, the investors are definitely coming out, but there's more and more home buyers coming out as well. We know Ulster Bank and AIB, and as far as I know, Bank of Ireland are now supporting the buyers going in at auction. So the Edison's one, when is that coming up, Lisa?
That's on the 15th of November in the Shelburne Hotel.
Okay.
So we've got about 2 weeks really to
Okay.
get to the first time.
Alright, we just need to look through all the lots corresponding with the cases that we have, the clients that we have, to see.
They're all good quality investment lots. They're priced well, the maximum reserves are realistic. Like if you were to look at the rental income coming into the maximum reserves, are quoting are anywhere from 15 to 18 to 20% of the yield, but realistically that's not what's going to be taken on the day, you know. So
although looking at Real Estate Alliance early ones, Merlin's, and certainly some of the little ones we've seen, they don't tend to, not like Alsop's, they don't tend to make as much over the reserve, so it's definitely worthwhile if we've tight budgets.
If they don't, these properties seem to be fantastic value. You know, given that the rental incomes are there, you know, what we actually need to do now is just go back through and actually look at the breakdown of where the rental incomes are there. What we can do is evaluate each of the rental incomes on the properties, and that will we can best advise our clients as to maybe possibly how to improve them, and you know, to generate more interest from our point of view in terms of bidding.
Yeah, because the receivers probably haven't optimised them at all.
No, absolutely not. And you might find that, especially in the multiple use ones and multiple use properties, that they're not, some of them might be vacant, some of them might just be let for the sake of being let, you know, they haven't got the maximum rental value coming in, and that's a little extra that we give to our clients.
Actually, I think with most of those residential or commercial properties that come up through any of these auctions with the tenancies, we're back to actually investigating the tenancies. In our experience so far, most of them don't correspond. Yes. So either the tenant is simply not there, or they are there but they haven't paid rent for a while, or they're paying rent but at a reduced rate.
Or they're
don't
contract.
Yeah, don't accept the tenancies as stated. Actually investigate all of those. Jonathan, Limerick is going to feature heavily now in the next upcoming auctions. Is this a good place now maybe to look for investors?
Well, what we saw in the last auction was they went for some of the cheaper properties. So some of the lower, you know, under the 50,000 mark, 60,000 mark, around that. They're kind of looking at those, not buying to let. We had one couple who were looking to buy for their son who's come home from Australia, so they go to college up in Limerick. So there's definitely activity.
Okay, and you mentioned one earlier that we took note of, one in Limerick. What type of building was that then?
Yes, this is a building on its own. It's got 6 2-bed apartments and 2 1-bed apartments. It's going for 260,000 at the moment.
260,000.
260
so
advertised.
6 2-bed apartments.
6 2-bed apartments
and
2 1-bed apartments, and it's on the South Circle Road, which would be a nice area in the city. So
and at the moment, that's with the receiver.
that's what the receiver at the moment.
Would you check out to see if that's vacant or partially let? What the income stream is now and what potential income stream is?
What the tenancy situation is at the moment, don't know if there are tenants there now.
What can actually do that is if you're familiar with the area, you can do a risk in terms of what the rent potential should be on a full let.
Realistic.
And then you can work back, like, you know, sort of receivers, what tenancy guarantee, you know. Because again, what is being marketed as the rental income is 99% is not always the real rental income. As long as you know potentially you can work it back.
Okay. Ger, what's the chances? We've been pushing for about 18 months now to try and encourage home buyers to enter the auction market. They're still terrified.
Absolutely.
How are we going to let home buyers, particularly first-time buyers, know that it's safe to come in once they've done the preparation, once they've done their homework? Is there an appetite there? Are first-time buyers going to be able to make this jump?
I'd say you'd have to educate them really as well, because as a seasoned buyer, I say it's intimidating to do an auction, because once you sign the contract to stay in the contract, you know, you can't get out of it. And you have to start on the day, and you have to go under, you know, surveys done and legal stuff done, and you might not necessarily get the property, so that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I think maybe the hype around the main multi-lot auctions is terrifying buyers. they're hearing about over 2,500 people in the room. The lots are selling within an average of 3 minutes. It's just going too fast. Do you think we should be pulling back and maybe looking at what the Irish, the traditional auctioneers are doing on the one-off auctions? This new one that's coming up might be more suitable. Real Estate Alliance is definitely a better one, a better environment. I understand that Marley's have one coming up, if not this side of Christmas, then shortly after. Yeah. Do we know anything about the number of lots they're likely to have?
They actually have, I was just speaking to Ed the other day, and he had said they hope to have close to 40 lots on this, and they've got an awful lot of banking from it. That's why they were due to have one this side of Christmas, but again, the bank holding it back, so they're doing a lot of entries from a particular bank this year, which is great, you know, these chances for them. But I think their notion as well is to keep it small, because it's not intimidating and you're encouraging more real buyers into the market, as opposed to auctions are very much seen as investment buyers, you know, investors with cash in their pockets. What you really want to do is encourage buyers into the market, and buyers that want to keep them at their home. And I think now with the banks coming to the realisation that people want to buy this way, and they're acting in a way that you say, right, we get the loan approved, we can have the pack ready for you, you know, because typically in the 4 weeks leading up to an auction, you wouldn't get your loan approved in that time, especially with your making with mortgages. But I think if the banks working with buyers, working with the auctioneers, they can actually put a very good mechanism in place to get properties back moving.
Actually, just last week we met with the people in HomePack, and so they're offering the complete auction service in terms of title review, house valuation, and the legal conveyancing process. And actually, what they were telling us that Ulster Bank have actually agreed for buyers going into the auction process that once they get the valuation in, they'll actually turn the paperwork around in 24 hours. But that's excellent. That would beat any of the other banks by about a week or maybe even 10 days. So maybe we should be making contact with Ulster Bank and making sure that buyers are aware of this. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be Ulster Bank, maybe we should be talking to the other banks and seeing, letting them know Ulster Bank are doing this. Will they be able to offer similar service? And actually mortgage brokers are probably the best people to get in contact and see will the banks do this. That would encourage buyers, I think.
It would, because they have to have the confidence that they can turn their monetary requirements around in 4 weeks. So you see, they have a lot to do, and again, that's why it's scary. It's not by having the buyer's broker involved in the process, makes it a little less daunting, because they can advise you on each step that has to be made, and they can actually help you with each step out, as opposed to bringing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different people. We can advise you need to speak to X, Y, and Z, give the options. And at least they feel, coming from the buyer's broker, they're reputable, and you can trust the process. Because you've got 4 weeks to find a home, do your homework, and then buy it. And then you're stuck with it once you put your hand in the inspiration. Yeah.
Actually, one of the worrying things with some of the receiver auctions is that they're not even giving the lead time has gone in, that there was actually slightly less than 3 weeks for one of the auctions. I think it's very tight for buyers. You know, they need to be pulling in the conveyancing, the surveyor, and the valuer, all of that together.
With an investor, it's a gain, it's a risk. You know what I mean? It's a business risk. So they can justify your 2.5 weeks, your 3 week meeting. You're buying a property for a home, and you've been on the market. It's totally different. And those 3 weeks is scared of the day like that. And that's why the smaller options, the longer they do, 94 to 6 weeks, appeal more to the purchasers, the home buyers, as opposed to the investor, because all they want to do is maximise the return on their investment. They know the figures when they're going in, so really 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, they just pay the solicitor to do that, and it's finished. From a home buyer's point of view, they really actually need time to coach.
I suppose the frustrating thing is that home buyers, particularly first-time buyers, who need discounted property more. They need it more. They can't afford speculative risk. They can't afford to pay off the odds. So they need it more. One of the other solutions actually we could look at is getting hold of the properties before they come into the auction room, if we think that's going to give buyers a better edge. Because we already know that for every one bank property that comes up through auction, there's another 4 to 5, possibly even 6 available on the bank's books. I really want first-time buyers to be able to access those. I understand if they're afraid to do it in the auction room, although I do think we should be helpful.
Maybe at some of the auctions that the ones go up, and there's not so many people in the ring, not so many today. I'd be prepared to introduction to the first-time buyers, the whole process.
Yeah, so maybe
over the next few days, if we can take a look at any of the potentially suitable homes in that auction, it might be suitable. And just speak to your clients and the home buyers and see if they're comfortable buying at auction. If so, we'll walk them through the process.